Hello everyone! I thought that in today's video I will show you how I make my Highland cow ornaments, and if you've seen one of my shorts I actually show basically a short version of how I made it, but I thought I would go in more detail in this video about how I've made it. So you're going to see close up of my hands and they're going to get really dirty because if you can't tell I'm working with terracotta air dry clay, and clay already gets all over your hands anyway, but terracotta clay, I mean my hands are already dirty and it's already on my desk, but it's fine because I can just wash it off, so it's not that big of a deal. But that's what we're going to do today. So one of the tools I like to use is this one when I'm working with anything clay, but especially the Highland cow. So I use this side to make the fur texture, and then this side I use for the nose. But it's really good for smoothing anything out and all that. And I've got another version where I use for my white clay so that I don't mix the two up. Just makes more sense. Of course as well you're going to need a scraper tool just so that you can join pieces together. So I normally construct the head separately and then attach to the body, and then I add all the details in. This guy is what we're going to be using to do that. So I've started out with my clump of air dry clay and I'm just going to split it. So one obviously is going to be smaller than the other one, because we're going to make the bigger one the body. So normally what I start with is rolling it out in a circle, and then I will pinch the bottoms in 4 bottoms to make the legs, which sounds really weird because I'm talking about bottoms, but you know. So I got a circle shape, so I'm just going to pinch it out so that we can make the leg. And I'm going to pinch one leg here, and this does take some time obviously to do. You don't really have to worry about it being too smooth because we're going to go over the whole clay bit with scraper tool. I can make the fur texture because obviously that's what Highland cows are known for. So when you're forming it, you're going to get some stress cracks which you want to work through, and basically you can use the smoothing tool to go over it, or you can use your finger. And if your finger's not quite working, then you can always put some water on your finger and it will just make it work better. Just don't put too much on because then it'll make it all slippery basically. And the smoothing tool is really good just to get in any crevices, but luckily because this is a Highland cow I will be going over using this tool to also make the fur texture, so I'm not really worried as much about the smoothness of the clay. I'm more worried about any stress cracks or anything that could cause it to dry funny. Of course when you're working with clay that actually goes in the kiln, this one isn't, this is air dry clay, it'll be a different process. So you also have to hollow it out because this is just all solid. And if you generally just want it lighter you can hollow it out, but because that's not what I'm going for, I'm just going for a little ornament guy. I'm actually quite happy with him just being full. He's also quite small anyway, I mean that's like his body, so for me it's not as much of a problem. I'm just going to smooth his little feet out because his feet will be the thing that I won't obviously go over with fur, so his little feet will be on show and that will be what keeps him up. So I want to make sure that they look all nice and smooth and have the legs look as alike as I can get them. But obviously, you know, it's not going to be perfect, but I think that's what adds to its features. So just make sure that he can stand on all 4s and just making sure that they are all meeting the ground and looking okay. And obviously I can adjust it as I go, just need to make sure that it's kept wet and so that I can work with it. And naturally I somehow have made a little hump, which is great because that means I know where the head's going. So let's move on to the head, and what we're going to do is also roll this into a circle so that we can have that lovely shape. And just test if the head's too big or too small. Like obviously I don't measure my clay, and you'll be dragging it to like blend in, so you'll scratch it together and then you'll pull the clay together so it creates a neck. At least that's what I do. So I we'll be doing that, so I need to take that into consideration if I need to make the head any bigger. So for the original one, I actually put the nose in, like I stuck it on, but I'm just going to see if I can shape the nose, because I just want to see if it will look better if the nose is shaped, or if it will make it look funny. So obviously they got fur everywhere, and then their nose is another one that hasn't got any fur on it, so we won't be adding texture, but we will be using the tip of this tool to basically prod in and make the nostrils. So for the ears, I'm basically going to take off a bit of clay and flatten it out, and because it goes flatter and it's thinner, it creates more cracks. So what I do is I go over it, just the tip of it. Oh, I'm trying to show you, it's getting very difficult to show you from this angle, but I go over the tip of it, so the edges right there, with this magic tool, which I've been literally using throughout this whole process, and really anything I sculpt with, just to smooth it out, and then I will stick it to the head like what I've done here. So I stick it to the head and I use my fingers to smooth it out, and if it's too dry I use the tool again. It tends to be the tool I like to use. But it's just that the edges are smooth because I won't be going over that. And then once it's stuck down, it makes it easier if it's not stuck down to smooth the edges and smooth it out a bit. So then you can add the little flopped ears. And now we can work on the horns. So I do have these horns here, so I was just looking at what sort of size I wanted it. So I've made this one a bit too big, so I'm gonna work on that as well. So for the horns, like I said earlier, I have a smaller one. So I'm just going to shorten this one to beater size because I thought it was too big for its head. And it's just about trying to get everything symmetrical, which can be a bit frustrating when you're trying to do it, to get it all to look the same. But basically I'm making the cone shape as you would, you know, keeping one side flat, so I push my finger on this side to keep it flat, and then I'm pinching round the sides to make the cone shape. I'm basically keeping it a cone shape rather than like, you know, a wonky horn. It's more straight up because I think it will look too much like a devil horn and that's not really the sort of look we're going for, if I'm honest. So for the horns, I'm going to smooth them out using the tool, because the tool will be best for the horns because they're so much smaller. They will crack more and it's harder to smooth it out with your fingers because it's such small detail. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my little scraper tool. I'm going to scrape the bottom, I'm going to scrape the head, add some water to act like a glue, and then stick it on. And I'm not going to blend it in because it's the horns, so the horns don't really look as blended in. But honestly, it's up to you what you want to do, but for me, I just prefer to have it stuck on, and then we can work on the nose. So I'm going to go ahead and start smoothing out the little cones, the little horns, not the cones. They do look like cones. So for the nostril of the nose, I'm basically going to use this tool, and I'm just going to lightly sort of press in just the tip and then take it out, and it basically creates like a little nostril. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. You can choose if you want to add a little line to go in the middle as well. It's really up to you. There we go, just added the other one. And now it's just about joining the body and the head together, and then we can add all the fur details. So all this sort of little clumps that sort of happen that can be easily smoothed out. But because I'm obviously going to add fur, it doesn't really matter as much. So I'm basically going to use a scraping tool. I'm just going to scrape this bit on the inside, and I made the shape of the head. I don't remember if I said, but I scooped out this so that I could make the horns and the ears, so I'm not wasting any clay. And I'm just going to scoop where I want the head to be on the body, add a bit of water to my finger, and then add it on here, and then it's just like a little bit of glue. So I'm going to add I'm just going to basically pull the side down so that I can, I might need to add some water because it's starting to go a bit dry, which makes it so much harder to work with, so but I'm just basically going to pull each side until it blends together, sort of like what I'm doing right there, for the rest of the head and the body. I basically have been using this tool here to sort of push the clay so it clumps up and then sort of can blend in, and then I can go over with my finger, and obviously under the chin and everything is a bit harder to get, so this tool just acts really well to just smooth it out a bit better. I mean, we'll be going over it with fur and everything, so it's mainly like the horns, the bottom of the feet and the nose and the edges of the ears that need to be the smoothest bit of it. But I'm basically going to go over with my finger and smooth out all of this here. Maybe not that much water, I added way too much water there. It's fine, it'll dry. Pretty much smoothed out. What you can start doing is adding all the fur texture. So I'm going to start at the bottom of the chin because I shouldn't be really touching that bit. I'm basically just using this tool just to add that fur texture. Now, in case you didn't know, I'm using terracotta air dry clay. Obviously because this is a highland cow, so I want to make him brown. And I don't have to paint all over him after, because trying to paint in between these is so difficult, and you can lightly brush over your finger over any areas because it will come out with little bits, because obviously you're digging into the clay. So if you want to go over your finger lightly with anything, and basically you're going to be covering, so leave a bit for the nose. Not that far down, probably around there maybe, and then do the top of the ears and around the eyes and everything. Leave the horns and do the whole body, even under the belly. Don't forget about under the belly, on the neck area, the chest area. Just get him coated. It's a finished highland cow, all furry, all ready to go. Just a nice little ornament to have. I think if I were to make another one, I would have kept to the original design of adding the nose. I just think it adds a bit more dimension to it, but yeah. And then once he's dry, I'll add white to the horns. And if you want, you can add one of these little hook things so that you can hang him, which is what I did last time, but I think I might just leave this one to be a little standing desk ornament, you know? I don't know, let me know if you prefer the nose being attached on like how I had it in the short, or if you prefer it sort of like poking out slightly. But I guess we'll see when he's fully dry, because he's obviously not dry yet. So I'm going to leave him to dry and see how he turns out. So I hope you liked this video and that it was entertaining and that you learnt basically how I made the highland cow. Maybe you want to give it a go yourself, or maybe you were just interested about how I managed it. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Bye!